Today I'm going to show you 2 ways to sew face masks. Mask 1 is a rectangular shape with pleated sides. Mask 2 is a fitted pattern. So download the patterns and choose the correct size. For mask number 1, you'll need 2 pieces of 6 by 9 inch fabric. They could be the same, or you could have a different pattern for the front and the back. You'll also need 2 pieces of 7-inch elastic. For mask number 2, you'll need 4 pieces of fabric. Use the pattern 4 times. You can have all the same fabric, or sometimes I like to use front and back alternating designs on my fabric. So I cut 2 pieces with a cactus for the front and 2 pink ones for the back. You'll also need 2 pieces of 11-inch elastic for mask number 2. And if you have a safety pin, that's going to make putting the elastic in a lot easier. So let's get started. Let's start with mask number 1. Take your 2 rectangle pieces of fabric and put them face to face, or right sides together. I'm going to place a pin on the long side, just left of the center. That's where I'm going to leave the hole for turning it inside out later. I'm going to start sewing backstitch a little each time I start or stop. And I'm going to start sewing from the center, making sure that it's even until I get really close to the end. Now I'm going to insert 1 piece of the elastic. I'm going to take the end and sandwich it in between the 2 layers, right in the corner. Sew over the elastic, and I'm going to backstitch a little just to make it stronger. And then with the needle still in the fabric, I'm going to lift the foot and turn the fabric. I'm going to lift up the fabric and find the other end of the elastic and sandwich it in the next corner. My left hand, I'm going to pinch that so that it stays together until I feed it through under the needle. When I get to the corner, I'm going to leave the needle down, lift the foot, and turn. Now, here's an easy part. I'm just going to run the fabric all the way through this long side again until I get close to the corner. And then I'm going to repeat what I did on the other side. I'm going to insert my elastic, sandwich it in between, right in the corner, hold it in there, and then feed it through. Leave the needle down, lift the foot, and turn the corner. Now we're going to sandwich the other end of the elastic into the last corner, holding it with my left hand as I start feeding it through. Now this is my last corner. I'm going to turn, and I'm only going to stitch a little bit. This is where my pin is, reminding me that this is where I need to leave the hole. Don't forget to backstitch always before you lift up and cut your thread. Now you can carefully remove your pin, open up the hole, and turn the fabric right side out gently. Now let's pin the hole closed, and then we're going to be sewing that together. We're actually going to top stitch along both long ends. Not only is the top stitching going to keep that hole closed, but it's going to give you a nice crisp edge and reduce the puffiness of the mask. Keep your top stitching as even as possible and very close to the edge. Now we're ready to create the pleats. We're going to make 3 pleats on each of the short sides. I'm going to take a pin for each pleat, fold it over, and put the pin in. You want to make sure that on the other side that they are going in the same direction and that they're even all the way across. Pressing a few times with the iron will help keep your pleats nice and flat and crisp while you're sewing. Now I'm going to sew a line right over the pleats slowly, and as I do that I'm going to slowly remove each of the pins while holding the pleats flat so they remain in place. I'm going to stitch through one more time just to reinforce. And now we're going to flip to the other side and do the same thing. And then I'm just going to trim all the loose threads and I'm finished. All right, ready for mask number 2. So make sure that your patterns are face to face. Like I said, you can have all the same colors. I'm going to do this cactus print for the front and put right sides together with a pin, the pink sides together. This is going to be my backing, and I'm just going to pin them to hold them in place. First, we're going to be sewing the curved edges on both pieces. Next, I'm going to take my backing piece, and I'm going to hem one side by folding it over 2 times towards the back. Make sure the sides are separated, and I'm going to stitch 2 lines to hold this down, one on each side of the folded hem. Before we put the front and back together, make sure you trim off any excess fabric and thread. You're going to open up your front and the back. You're going to flip the lining around, and we're going to put these 2 pieces right side to right side, or face touching face. Now, it's important that we get these lined up correctly, so I like to start in the center where the seam is and line up the 2 seams and pin it there first. Then continue to line up the rest of the top as well as the bottom. We're going to leave the sides open for now. Now we're going to stitch the two long sides, pulling the pins out as we go and keeping it nice and even and close to the edge. Keep your seam allowance nice and even. Now we're going to take the side that's not hemmed and we're going to just stitch that together as well. Now we can flip it right side out through the one side that's still open and gently push out the other end. I like to use the end of a long paintbrush. Just be careful that you don't push too hard. Start working the mask into its shape, and you can even iron to flatten it out a little before you top stitch. We're going to top stitch across the bottom, followed by across the top. Now we're going to take the closed end, fold it over, and we're going to stitch this. Now be sure you have enough room because this is where we're going to put the elastic through when we're finished. Now our last part we need to sew, a little tricky, on the open end we're going to sew a really tiny little hem on the front flap. Now I'm going to fold this over, but I'm going to make sure I tuck it just a little bit underneath the flap. I'm going to sew it right inside there, so I'm going to just kind of have to hold it open a little bit on the left side. This way I will have an opening if I ever wanted to add another filter material in between. Now I'm going to use the safety pin and put it through one piece of elastic and use that to feed it through both ends. And then I'll just finish it off with an overhand knot, loosely tied in case I need to adjust for sizing. There you go, mask number 2 is complete. check out what else I'm creating at Stitch Print Art. You can find me on Facebook, Etsy, Instagram, or email me with questions or comments at stitchprintart@gmail.com. Have a great day!